Keith Ward was 28 years old when she made a decision that defied every piece of conventional wisdom she'd ever heard. A single mother scraping by on diner tips in Cleveland, she took her last $100, money meant for groceries, and bought something her friends called fake internet money. That was Bitcoin in 2013. Today, that desperate gamble has made her wealthier than she ever dared imagine. But this isn't about luck or timing. This is about recognizing a revolution before the world catches on. About having the courage to act when everyone else is paralyzed by fear, and about one woman's discovery of a wealth-building secret that's still working today. What Keith learned in those early days wasn't just about cryptocurrency. It was about how ordinary people can position themselves at the beginning of extraordinary transformations. And by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why the next few years might be your last chance to join this financial revolution. Keith's alarm screamed at 4:30 every morning in her cramped East Cleveland apartment. Single mother, double shifts, drowning in bills that always seemed to cost exactly $1 more than she had. The diner was her world. Fluorescent lights, stale coffee, and the constant smell of grease that clung to her clothes no matter how many times she washed them. Then she met Marcus, a regular customer who always tipped well and spent hours typing on his laptop. One November morning, Keith noticed his screen showing charts and numbers with Bitcoin across the top. Digital money, Marcus explained when she asked. Like email, but for cash. No banks, no government control, just people sending value directly to each other. It sounded like science fiction to Keith, money that existed only on computers. But Marcus kept talking about limited supply, early adoption, and positioning yourself before everyone else sees the opportunity. I think we're still early, he said. Really early? Like internet, in 1995 early. Keith found herself researching during breaks, using the diner's ancient computer. The more she read, the more fascinated she became. Bitcoin wasn't just digital money. It was a completely different way of thinking about value and trust. Instead of relying on banks, it used mathematics. Instead of being controlled by institutions, it was maintained by computers worldwide. The stories were incredible. People who'd bought Bitcoin for pennies and watched it grow exponentially. But for every success story, there were warnings about volatility and risk. Keith had $137 in her checking account. Taking $100 and putting it into something as risky as Bitcoin felt insane. But it also felt like her only chance to change her life. On a December Thursday night, with Emma asleep and the apartment quiet, Keith sat at her kitchen table with her debit card in hand. At 11:47 p.m., she bought her first Bitcoin. Not a whole one, but enough to own a piece of the future. The first weeks were torture. Bitcoin's price moved wildly. Up 10% one day, down 15% the next. Keith checked obsessively, watching her $100 become 90, then 110, then 85. Every dip felt like confirmation she'd made a terrible mistake. When Bitcoin crashed in January, dropping from $800 to $400, Keith's investment plummeted. The internet exploded with "I told you so" articles. Bitcoin was dead, experts said. Keith's finger hovered over the sell button for hours. Instead, she closed her laptop and went to work. The next months were a masterclass in emotional resilience. Keith learned to stop checking prices constantly and focus on the long-term vision. She read everything about blockchain technology and the potential for a financial system without traditional intermediaries. The breakthrough came when Marcus visited again in spring. The hardest part isn't the technology or volatility, he said. It's believing in something before everyone else does. But that's where real opportunity is. That conversation changed Keith's approach. She stopped seeing volatility as a problem and started seeing it as opportunity. Each crash was weak hands selling to strong hands. Each recovery proved the underlying vision was sound. Throughout 2014 and 15, Keith held her Bitcoin despite stagnation and declines. She couldn't afford to buy more, but she held with increasing confidence as the ecosystem developed and institutions slowly took cryptocurrency seriously. The vindication began in 2016. Bitcoin's price climbed steadily, breaking previous highs. Keith's $100 investment became $500, then $1,000, then $2,000. By 2017, during Bitcoin's legendary run, Keith's investment was worth hundreds of thousands. She quit the diner in March, using her newfound freedom to educate herself in finance, technology, and business. She learned to think like an asset owner, rather than just a wage earner. Keith chose a middle path at the peak. She sold enough to buy a house and establish security, but kept most of her Bitcoin, convinced the revolution was still beginning. The 2018 crash tested that conviction. Bitcoin fell 80%, but Keith wasn't panicked. She'd been through cycles before and had already secured her family's basic needs. That patience paid off spectacularly. Bitcoin's recovery was even more dramatic than previous runs. By 2021, Keith's original investment was worth millions, and her total portfolio had grown exponentially. But the real transformation wasn't just financial, it was personal. Keith evolved from desperate single mother to sophisticated investor who understood markets and wealth building. She learned to think in decades rather than paychecks. Emma, now 17 and college-bound, had watched her mother transform. "You didn't just make money with Bitcoin," she observed. "You changed how you think about money itself." Keith smiled at her daughter's insight. Bitcoin wasn't just an investment. It was an education in how wealth is created and how ordinary people can participate in extraordinary opportunities. Today, Keith's original $100 investment has grown beyond her wildest dreams, but she measures success in more than dollars. In freedom to choose how she spends time, security for Emma's future, and the example she's set of what's possible with courage and conviction. Keith now helps others understand cryptocurrency, speaks at conferences, and mentors single mothers. The lessons extend far beyond Bitcoin. The biggest opportunities often look like the biggest risks. Timing matters less than time in market, and financial education is the best investment you can make. The cryptocurrency revolution Keith joined in 2013 is still unfolding. Bitcoin has evolved from experimental currency to legitimate store of value recognized worldwide, but we're still early in this transformation. For those wondering if they've missed their chance, the answer is nuanced. You've missed buying Bitcoin for $100, but not the opportunity to participate in the ongoing transformation of money and finance that Bitcoin represents. The next decade will bring innovations we can barely imagine. The people who position themselves to understand and participate won't just preserve wealth. They'll multiply it in ways that seem impossible today, but will seem inevitable tomorrow. Keith Ward, his journey from desperate single mother to cryptocurrency success isn't just inspiring. It's a blueprint for recognizing transformational opportunities. It's proof that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results with education, patience, and calculated risk-taking. The question isn't whether cryptocurrency will continue transforming our financial system. It's whether you'll be part of that transformation or just a spectator. Keith chose to participate when Bitcoin was still a curiosity. That choice changed everything. What choice will you make?